And we are starting. We're waiting for the blue thing to go.
No problem. I see tag video. I see live.
All right. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to come on in. Thanks for coming in. We have the lovely Dejan in the house. Mr. Dejan, how you doing? All right. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome. Amazing. So we're going to wait. How you feeling today, Mr. Dejan?
I'm blessed and highly favored. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I was off today. I relaxed. So now we're here on Facebook Live. We are here to impact. I can't wait for you to share your story. Hello, everyone. All right. While you're on here, if you could just go ahead and just share this video with your peers, the people on your page, I was greatly appreciated. Talk to me in the comments. Let me know where you're from. And are you excited? All right. Okay. We're going to give you guys a few minutes. All right. Hold on. I'm going to share this live right quick. All right, you guys. So we're going to go ahead and start. Thank you guys for tuning in to this month's segment. We're talking about inmates turned into entrepreneurs. And I am so excited to have Mr. Dejan here with me, who is a business consultant. He is a keynote motivational speaker. He's a life mindset coach. He's a prison reform advocate. And his story was just really, really impact you guys. And I am just so excited to just have him here tonight with us, you know, with me. If you guys know, you know, this story is really, really near and dear to my heart because, you know, if you've been following me for, you know, a great deal of time, you know, I have brothers who are currently in the season, in this season of being incarcerated. And it's a struggle, you know, as a sister, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to see them free and then go back, then free and then go back again. And you know, I'm doing this basically for them, letting them know that it is possible, even though they don't really know or feel that it's possible or that they can one day overcome. I know that, you know, it's possible. And so give me some hearts, you guys, and let us introduce, you know, Mr. Dejan Talks. How are you doing today?
I'm doing real good, and I'm honored and blessed to be on your platform today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So we're going to get right into it because we don't want to, you know, hold the other people hostage who are late. And so, you know, tell us your story. Like you're doing so much right now. Like you overcame so many obstacles. Excuse me. How did you do it? Like, how did you manage to overcome? Like, tell us your story. Walk us through this.
Well, first of all, I can't give myself any type of credit because I don't think I personally overcame anything. I think without God, first of all, I wouldn't have been here to having a conversation with you. That's first and foremost. So let's get that out of the way. So I believe if I've overcame anything in life, it was because God's hedge of protection around me and his guidance.
Right.
But a little bit, I guess, about my story is I'm a Haitian refugee. I was born in Haiti. I came here on a boat when I was 6 years old. Me and 13 other men running for our lives.
Wow.
By the time I was 6, I was raped. I spent time in prison in Cuba. That was my first time. My first time in prison was when I was 6.5 in prison in Cuba. I was 6.5 years old. We spent 30 days there. And then finally we made it to the United States. And then I had the life of a Haitian immigrant in the United States. By the time I was 13, I was already shot twice and stabbed twice. By the time I was 13 years old, living in the heart of Miami. By the time I was 15, I was homeless. By the time I was 27, I was facing 50 years in prison. I've ate out of trash cans, slept in cars, slept on the bridges, broke into church to sleep, slept in church vans, broke into schools to take showers, lived with drug dealers, seen the dope game, seen the thug life game, seen the professional lifestyle. I've probably seen a little bit of everything. I've had a well-balanced diet of life. But by God's grace and mercy, as I face all of these different obstacles, unbeknown to me, God has always guided me and made sure that I overcame so I can have a testimony. And I think it's because of testimonies like mine that allows me to be on a platform like this. So I guess that's just a small little segue transition from where I was to where I am today.
That is a lot. You said a mouthful.
Yeah, well, that's the short version. It's a lot more than that. Time I got to give you the short, brief impact version.
Listen, we want it all tonight because you know me, I'm all about transparency, and I follow, my platform is, very diverse, and I am like,
that's the short version. It's
absolutely. Right. So let's talk a little bit about your life. You've been shot, you've been raped, you've been eating out of trash can.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question is, what was the silver lining in all of this that made you say, look, I need to surrender and try something new, because clearly my way is not working at all. Like, when did you do that? Or was the process even easy?
Well, I don't think the question is applicable in regards to a lot of my life situations were not decisions that I made. Like I joined a gang,
Right.
or I dropped out of high school. These are personal decisions that you make, and then eventually, as life unfolds, you realize, you know what? Some of these decisions I made were not that great, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, that was not life. Life was literally the hand that was dealt to me was what I was living every day. I didn't make a decision to be homeless. I didn't make a decision to go to prison. I didn't make a decision to get raped. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't make a decision to get shot or stabbed. So these were not my decisions. These were the results of other people's decisions that I had to live with the consequences. So for me to say, where was the silver lining to change my mind? I couldn't say there was a silver lining based on other people's decisions that impacted my life to make a silver lining in my life. Now, what I will say is, God used all of those scenarios to get face to face with me. Let's put it that way, to have my burning bush moment, right? And I would say the moment that God really stopped me at a halt to say, hey, listen, I allowed you to go through all this because you have a purpose. And I didn't allow you to die because you had a purpose. Was, I want to say, when I was 27 in the county jail. He stopped me. There was no distractions. There was no excuses. There was no world, no bills, no nothing. Just me and God. And he allowed me to have my Paul experience. I went through my Damascus experience, and then he took me away for 3 years, like he did with Paul in Asia. And I spent those 3 years just focused on me and God. And it has been probably the greatest 3 years of my life, that transitional period. So I would say God met me at my place when I was in prison. I wouldn't say I met God, because God meets you where you're at. So God met me at that location. And I wouldn't want to say prison itself. If anybody benefits from this guy, Dejan Talks, whether it's the business person, the motivational speaker, the preacher, whatever, the life coach, all of these things that people are benefiting from, all were birthed in prison. These were the results of prison. Prison birthed all of these things in me that I didn't know that was in me, but God molded me and shaped me in that process and put men around me in prison that showed me things inside me that society would never want to reveal inside of me. Society rather put you down and break you down and tell you you're not worthy. But in prison, we're all equal. And then men looking at you as if, wow, you're a phenomenal speaker. Wow, you're very smart. why you this? I never saw those things in myself. I didn't see those potentials in me. But as I was in prison and going through the day-to-day process, God was just unraveling all of the things that he has been investing in me over the past 27 years that I did not acknowledge because I couldn't see it. So everything that people are benefiting from, that they're drinking from the wealth of Dijon talks or the fruits of that labor, courtesy of prison. Prison birthed that guy. God used that process to birth the guy that everybody's now eating off that table from.
That's good. That's really, really, really good. You guys, if you guys have any questions, feel free in between to ask these. I know this is he's saying a lot, and we're going to try to break down everything that he shared so far in his testimony. I love what you said about, you were in prison. You had your encounter in prison, So can we just kind of talk about that a little bit? Because I feel like, again, this is near and dear to my heart because, I went to go visit my brother before coming here. And and he was telling me just about his crisis and how they put him in, the hole for 21 days and, and how he was losing it. And one of the things that I told him, is to have, really have your heart to heart with God. You're going to be 29 years old this year. So, learn to surrender. So, I mean, what can you say to an individual who, is locked up right now, who doesn't really quite know what to do and how to talk to God? And, I know you said that you didn't necessarily want these things to happen to you. They just kind of happened. So how are you able to allow, the burning bush experience to even happen, I guess?
All right, so that's a loaded question. So it's gonna take me some time to unravel that question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been in church my whole life, but I didn't know Jesus my whole life. I got baptized at 15, but all I did was get wet, like 90% of the church today. We go to church, we have a religious experience, we go through traditions, and we're thinking we're saved and we get wet, but nothing changes.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. There is no change inside of us, right? There's no conviction. There's no Holy Spirit. And that was me. I was in church. All my life I've been in church. I used to drive the church van, praise and worship, step dance, you named it. I was doing it all for church. But I was doing tradition and religion. I had zero relationship with God. Right? I would carry the Bible on Sundays, never read it throughout the week. Right? When it comes down to your question about encouraging somebody while they're in prison in regards to surrender, there's two things that people have a problem with today in today's society: women and men. Submission and surrender. These are two words that nobody wants to hear. Women don't want to hear submit. Men don't want to hear surrender. It's just these words have negative connotations to us because of pain, natural pain. Yeah. So in this world, Jesus said, "You are in the world, but you're not of the world," right? But Jesus says we have spiritual principles and natural principles. But unfortunately, what you feed is what you live by the most, right? So we live more in the flesh because that's what we feed more. So our natural inclination and understanding is going to be fleshful, carnal-minded person, right? So the carnal-minded man cannot understand the things of spirit. Why it is easy for you to be in the spirit to say, well, do this, do that, do that. The church failed us. Let's be real. The same churches that I went through when I got incarcerated were my same pastors, the same people were the same one judging me for being in prison. So the churches that were supposed to have my back and support me are judging me. And now when I get to prison, I'm supposed to go look for a God when the representation of God failed me.
Right.
Anytime I look at a representation of God, it fails. In a situation like prison, it's easy for us on the outside to tell somebody, surrender, be encouraged and stuff like that. I get it. And I know it's out of good intent. The intent is good. Prison is a different beast. Okay? That 21-day whole experience can make you go crazy. It is not made for man. It's not made for animal. It's a mental breakdown where you have no conversation. You're locked in a room. You don't go nowhere. They feed you a tray through a hole. You don't see no sunlight. You don't even know the rationale of time, day, nothing. It's a psyche breakdown.
Yeah.
Right? Then they don't let you get letters. They don't let you communicate. They don't let you get visos. Nothing. That's if you even allowed visitation while you're in prison, right? So, and then a lot of the times, if you're in the hole, it's either for your protection or because of something that went wrong. Half the time, right? The only way I would say for somebody to really get to know God in their experience is if they've never really been down with God, is, you know, when the Bible speaks about a wife standing in the gap for a husband.
Yeah.
That is that relentless prayer of a family.
Yeah.
I didn't pray for me to go find God. I believe my mother did that. I believe my grandmother did that. I believe my sisters did that. I believe if it was not for the prayers of other people, I would have probably never made it to God and the way that God intervened certain things in my life. Because God doesn't work the way we work. God doesn't work on the time frame in which we work. God doesn't deal with us or see things the way we see things. He says, high as the heavens above the earth, so are his ways above our ways. So we can't understand his thinking or how he works. Now, will God be able to work in your brother in the prison cell? Most definitely. At God's perfect time, when your brother, he has to lose all hope in himself.
Yeah.
He has to be, you know, I am the potter, he is the clay, right? That's what we hear biblically speaking, right? So we understand that. Literally, God has to break you down to the point where man can't do nothing for you. You know why I was able to love God so much? I didn't have a sister named Ludi visiting me. I didn't have a brother named whatever visiting me. I didn't have no pastor, no friend. I ain't had nobody putting no money in my books. I ain't had nobody writing me no letters. It was just me and God. My kids couldn't visit me in prison. My kids' mothers didn't visit me in prison. My sisters didn't visit me in prison. Nobody wrote me letters. Nobody sent me no money. It was me and God. I had nothing. Until you get to the point where you have nothing, you won't understand how God can be your everything. Sometimes while we helping, we become handicaps to people. Yeah. We still leave them in a place of comfort in their time of lesson. We're giving them cheats and answers to the test while God is saying, let them learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes love transcends so far that it doesn't allow people to grow. I'm one of those people. I can understand that because let me fall on my behind. I got this big forehead because I have to knock it. The more I knock this big forehead, the more I learn, because some people, when they're allowed to have any level of comfort, they won't be able to grow. They won't be able to learn because they know they have a source of dependency. So while we're praying for God, we're the stumbling block.
Yeah.
We're stopping God from fully getting that, because guess what? We're not allowing God to be God because we're always playing God. Oh, I'm there. I got you. I'm always here for you. Just know. Now, is that important while you're in prison for the mental person? Yes. They need to get letters. They need to know that you're there and you love them, but you're not their bailout ticket.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're not their bailout ticket. Every time they get in the hole, you're not their bailout ticket. Every time they need something, you're not their bailout ticket. They need to learn to have responsibility while in prison. I didn't work in prison, but guess what? I never lacked money and I never lacked food. Why? Because I learned how to hustle the right way. I had artistic skill. I can draw my behind off. So I found every tattoo artist under prison pound. I said, I'm the best artist here. I can draw any portrait. I draw the portraits. You pay me $10 a head. Guess what? My locker was always full. Overflow, abundance. But that was a God-given gift that God gave me that I never used out here. But now I'm in prison. Now that gift is very useful.
That's really good. So you do tattoos? Is that what I'm hearing, sir?
I don't do tattoos, but I'm an artist. I can paint, I can draw, I can portrait, I can do anything. If I can see it, I can duplicate it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's great. So for those of you that are just coming in, we have about 19 people. If all of you guys can go ahead and share this video. Dejan was just telling us about his story and just how many days, he spent behind bars and how being behind bars, executed, the gifts that were always on the inside of him. Again, he's a motivational speaker, host, and poet. He's a coach. He's a prison reform advocate. And God has truly blessed him in a way to share his story and to motivate both men and women alike. So I want to go back a little bit because like I said, you have a lot. I know you were shot and you were eating out of garbage can. Tell us about that season, and how was it for you?
So that's two different seasons. So the first season was the getting shot and stabbed, right? When I first came to the United States in the late 80s, early 90s, Haitians were an AIDS or a cancer in the United States from the 70s all the way up to like the late 90s, honestly. we were a cancer. We were an unwanted breed, an unwanted people in a country that was not ours, right? In a country we actually help liberate and help allow those people to become free. I remember my very first day at Little River Elementary, I got jumped by 2 Black Americans. I don't speak a lick of English. I don't even know where I'm at. I don't know what I'm doing here. And I went back home and I told my dad I ain't going back to school. My dad being a military man and such a vigilant mindset, my dad is a military guy, very stern, very rough. There is no softness in my father. He took me back at the end of the school, found those 2 boys, held one, made me fight them, held the other one, made me fight the other one, then took me home and beat my behind. And then the very next day we had boxing training. So I took 4 beatings in one day. Not only did I get jumped, then each one of those dudes whooped me one at a time. Then I went home and my dad beat me again, right? In Miami, Haitians, you didn't have to go look for a fight. What we called Yanks back in the days, they bought you to fight. Mm-hmm. You ain't got to go look for it. I remember the only gift my dad ever gave me, because my dad was never financially able. Throughout the course of living with my dad, I always slept on the couch. I never had my own room. I was never blessed with a room. I was never blessed with these things because my dad was just not financially able. He did the best that he can. My dad was just a what they call a super, somebody that just sweeps and clean buildings. Mm-hmm. So I remember I never had Christmases, birthdays, never had sleepovers, never had these things. It was the one time my dad was able to do something for me. He had bought me a little chain with a Gemini emblem because I'm a Gemini. And one day I'm leaving school for soccer practice, and then these 3 Black Americans come to me and say, "Hey, let me get that off for you," referring to my chain. Being who I am and valuing what my dad said, I said, "Come get that." And one of them put their hand around my neck, and it was all hell broke loose. Well, in that fight, I got stabbed in my stomach. I got stabbed in my leg. I got a bat across the head. I had a bat up here, 2 black eyes, 2 big things on my head. I'm laying on the ground, bleeding all over the ground. Now, mind you, I'm only 11 years old at this time. I'm only 11. I got a big hole here, big knots here, head split open, black eyes. I'm laying on the ground. I finally come to. And then my dad comes to pick me up after school. My dad being who he is, instead of him not taking me to the hospital, he's driving around in his old school Cadillac talking about who did this to my kid. He's about to get them. He's driving around. Did you see who did this to my kid? Finally, my father took me home, and then we're in the bathroom. He says, "Get naked." He gets this white bucket, fill it with hot water, fill it with alcohol, get these little white towels, and he says, "Come here." And he starts shoving it inside of me to try to kill all the bacteria. So literally taking the white towel and shoving it in my stomach, because I have a big hole in my stomach right here, right? Shoving it, then go shower. The next day, go to school. That was my dad. Go to school. The very next day, go to school. Very militant man. The shooting, this was in the Miami Herald. This was by a kid named Sonny. We were leaving school one day. It was a group of us, and then these Black Americans came on us, and then we just started fighting. And then in the midst of the fighting, I guess we had the upper hand in the fight, and then they started shooting, so we started running. And as we're running away, we hear Sonny screaming, "Help!" He's left behind. Sonny is on his knees begging for his life. A Black American kid looked at him and he shot him in the face. We're running back to Sonny. And as we're running back to Sonny, bullets are being shot at us. But we're not thinking about the bullets. We're just looking at Sonny on the ground. Bullet dead in the face. So I get shot in the knee. I didn't even feel it. I get shot again in the leg. I didn't even feel it. Because adrenaline is running, right? We get to Sonny. Sonny's dead. Police everywhere. Front page of the Miami Herald and whatnot. The homeless thing happened when I was 15 years old. My dad got to the point where he was like, "Junior, if you stay in Miami, suete Miami, de ba capivo." 2 things that can happen. You're gonna end up in prison, you're gonna end up dead because of the lifestyle that's in Miami. I had an older sister that lived in Palm Beach, so he begged my sister to take me in. So my older sister took me in. She was only 7 years my senior. I was 15. My sister was dating a guy, and then she got pregnant 3 months later. And then the guy didn't like the fact that I always stood up to him when he disrespected my sister. Right. He didn't like that. I had a very tough mentality because of how I was raised on the streets. So I don't care if I'm 15 or 12 and you're 50, we're going to have a problem if you disrespect my family, right? Right. So he finally convinced and got my sister's head when my sister kicked me out at 15. So I packed all my bags. They were supposed to ship me back to Miami. My dad was not ready for that. So I lied to my dad. I'm like, "Oh, Papa, don't worry about it. I got a friend of mine. His dad got a room. I'm gonna get the room. I'm working at McDonald's. I'm gonna pay him $300 a month for the room. I ain't have nothing. I took my duffel bags, got on the train, went to Lake Worth, slept under Lake Worth Bridge, in my black trash bags. I broke into Lake Worth Gym almost every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning to shower. I broke into the cafeteria every night to eat. And then I would sleep right there under Lake Worth Bridge as the train is running and the cars are running, waking up every morning to go to school. And then I transitioned from that to a couple dudes always watching me, following me. One day they see me, they're like, yo, what you doing out here? I'm saying, I'm living. And these dudes were like 25, 26, some OGs from New York. And then one of them was named D. And he's like, yo, get in the car. So I got in the whip and they took me to a motel. So when I turned 16 till I was about 17 years old for a whole year, I lived from motel to motel to motel to what you would call a trap house in today's society, right? So I've seen the dope game because of those guys. They taught me how to survive. They taught me how to move on the streets. They taught me how to eat. I never touched dope. I never sold dope. They never allowed me to touch dope. They never allowed me to sell dope. And then the funny thing is, these guys, there's like 7 of us in a 1-bedroom efficiency. And every Sunday they wake me up. Wake up, nigga. Go to school. Go to church. They will wake me up, big dunks, smoking weed, but they'll drop me off at church. Right in front of a Haitian church. They're dropping me in a big dunk, weed smoking, drop off. Then they pick me up. And every morning, they could keep me out till 5 o'clock in the morning. Come 6 o'clock, wake up, go to school. Those dudes from the street that didn't know me was more family to me than family.
Wow.
They loved on me more than family. They gave me the street hustle of how to survive, you know, how to make it. And then over the course of life, God put different other people in my life that taught me how to actually use the brain that I had. So I was learning instincts first. The instincts is how to survive the streets because I needed to be able to survive that situation. So God put people in that environment at that time that could help me to overcome that situation because I've never experienced it before. And then when I need to go through an education, God always put different people at different times in my life based on the situations that I was going through. So that was the transition between shot, stab, and homeless.
So those individuals that helped you, are they still alive today? Do you still
Yeah,
communicate?
oh yeah, most definitely. They're all still alive.
Okay.
Most definitely. The D actually, the funny thing about it is his name Daryl, but we call him D. He looks just like Ludacris, except with green eyes. And he named his firstborn son after me.
Wow.
He named his firstborn son after me. Yeah. Those guys are family.
So as you transition now to this motivational speaking life, have they followed pursuit or are they still,
No,
you know,
these guys are no longer on the streets. These guys are fathers. These guys are men working. These guys are no longer on the streets. You know, everybody has a season.
right,
We all
right,
have seasons. Some of us die in our season.
right.
I've seen a lot of people die in their season. Me and a couple of guys, we were blessed enough not to die in a season, to be able to transition into new seasons, so we can, you know, the seeds that we planted could reap a harvest for the next generation, right? So now a lot of these guys are still alive. A couple of them died. I could tell you throughout that year of living from motel to motel, I had more guns pointed at my head than I can count. But for some reason or another, God's hand of protection would not allow man to take me out.
That's good. That's
I
good.
don't care. I don't care what devil came my way, what man came my way. When God says you can't hurt him, like when he told the devil, hey, you go test Job, but you can't hurt him.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I understand that scripture. I literally understand it because I'm a living proof of that scripture. I don't care how many times I get shot, how many times I've been stabbed, how many times I've been homeless, how many times I had a gun put in my head. If God said it ain't my day, it's just not my day.
That's your day. Wow. I hope you guys are enjoying. Are you guys enjoying this so far? Are you guys like? This is a lot. Like this is a lot. If you guys have any questions, we're gonna open the floor for some questions. I'm gonna ask one more. I'm gonna ask you to dive a little deeper. You know, this is kind of a sensitive, question. So here you are. You're 6 years old and you're raped. You know, and you are now in your 30s. I'm not going to give your age out to the people.
That's all right.
You
I'm
know,
36.
he's 30. Okay, he's 36.
I'm 36. Yeah, I'm
He's a
36.
handsome 36, y'all. But we're gonna leave that alone towards the end, right? Um, so you're 36 years old, and at the age of 6, you were raped. Walk us through that process and how has it affected you now that you are a grown man with kids? Because I know, and I'm asking you to, open this door because I know people personally, men, that have been through this and they're not ready to talk about this. So now's your time.
Have you ever been pinned down to the ground? You look around, but there's no one to be found. Tight grips on your wrist, there's no cops, and you're not being frisked. You scream, you cry, you yell. You're ready to die, didn't endure this pain. You feel the blood from your wrist stop as they try to give you a kiss. As you look around and it's dark and it's pissed. One hand at your neck ready to choke, but you wish you were a recruit. As they rip your clothes, one hand says, I want to take my strokes. When they're dirty, they relieve their dirty essence all over you as they say, bye-bye, boo. You stay on the ground, I don't want to do, thinking of things like STDs, HIVs, AIDS, and herpes. Because when they took what was yours, when they took your innocence, they didn't use no rubber. Then all of a sudden you yell for your mother. The sad part about the story is when they took your innocence from you, you were just 6 years old. That was one of the ways that I learned how to cope with trauma, was through poetry. I used to deal with trauma differently. I was a very good boxer when I was younger. So I had very good hands and I was a very violent person and with a very short fuse. That's how I used to deal with my problems. I met this old white lady named Dr. Diane Allardyce at a high school. And she said, you have a lot of anger. I said, I have reasons. She said, I know you kids like to rap. Who's your favorite rapper? I'm like, Tupac. She's like, I can see why you like Tupac because your life resonates with his. I'm like, very much so. She said, I want to teach you something. I said, what's up? She tried to teach me poetry. And all my poems sounded like raps. All of them sounded like raps. Then one day she took me to this big old stage with a whole bunch of white people. And then she's like, spit your best poem. I'm like, and then before I know it, my poem was in a book. And I was like, well, how's this raggedy kid from the streets, why do I have something in a book? She changed my life. When I was 6, my dad was involved in heavy politics. He was a military man. He was close to the president of Haiti. And then the guy that overthrew Haiti by the name of Sidas, he was in love with my mother and hated my father. So Sidas wanted to kill my dad. One night they came to our house and the army shot up our house. There was bullets running through the house. My dad's standing outside. And I'm down there with my mom and my 2 sisters under the bed crying. I'm peeing over myself. I'm doodling myself. And bullets are just running through the house. And then when the bullets finally stopped, I ran away from mother, ran outside to look for my dad. And for some reason or another, my dad was still alive. From that day, my dad started gathering a couple of men so they can build a little boat so we can escape Haiti. And that's that picture you see me in my video on that boat coming to America. That's actually the real picture of me coming to the United States. That's not a fake picture. That's my picture of me in 1991 coming to the United States. Because they caught us in the ocean and we made national headlines. For some reason, my life has always made national headlines. Don't know why. That's just what God has been doing since I was a kid. Whether it was for good or bad, God do what he do, right? Well, a week before we departed from Haiti, we were playing what we call in Haiti, Nalaku and Fascala. So I guess the little neighborhood or cluster of homes across the street from where we live. And then it was dark. We were playing a game called Lago. Lago is like a hide and seek at dark, at night. So you would go hide and dark and somebody got to try to find you, right? These 2 girls came approach me. I think they were probably like 16, 17 years old. And at that time I was 6, saying, Junior, follow me. So I followed them into this room. And then it was, the way I could describe the room, there was no bed in the room. It was just like a sheet on the ground, a little lamp, and nothing else. And one of the girls says, Junior, shh, as she put her hand over my mouth. Then all of a sudden, I'm forced down to the ground. One girl got her hand on my neck like this and her hand over my mouth while the other one was undressing me. Then after she finished undressing me, she tried to get me up and then she sat on top of me. I tried to scream, but every time I tried to scream, the other one kept digging her nails in my neck. And then finally, after this occurred for about a good 5-10 minutes, I heard my sister, my older sister, banging on the door, saying, if my brother in there, y'all better let him out. If my brother in there, I'm going to go get my dad, and my dad's going to kill everybody in this house. Because my dad was a very violent man. My dad's going to kill everybody in this whole place, right? So finally, they let me go and then the girl as I'm leaving the room, she told me, "Un femme haïtien a toujours premier." So translation for my non-Creole speaking folks, the whole purpose of why they raped me, because they found out that we were going to leave Haiti and flee Haiti. And she told me that a Haitian woman would always be my first, no matter where I'm at or where I go. I can say for 13 years, I had the same nightmare over and over. And I thought it was just a nightmare. For 13 years, I had the same dream reoccurring in my brain of me getting raped. And for the life of me, I couldn't tell you why I was having this dream, because I thought, because I was so young, I'm thinking it was not real. At 19, I finally got a chance to go back to Haiti for the first time, and my only time going back to Haiti. And I asked my older sister, without explaining anything, what happened to me when I was 6? And she broke down my dream verbatim without me having to tell her anything.
Wow.
Validating my dream, right? Then I inquired of her, being in Haiti and there are no laws, where do these people live? And then she told me they live there. Do you want me to take you there? At that time, I didn't have the God that I have in me right now. So I told her, it's best that you don't take me around these people.
Right.
I didn't have the God that I still had that old man. I was Saul. I was no Paul. So yeah, let's not take me to those people. I can say that trauma ate me for 13 years. Mentally, for 13 years, I could not unlive a dream or unlive a nightmare. Sexually, that has its impacts mentally on somebody's body. Your body, it's like a girl, if she gets raped. If she got raped and a man touched her inappropriately at a certain way, every relationship she has, even with her husband, if the husband touch her in that way, it's going to trigger something. Even he don't mean nothing bad by it. Something, her body memory will trigger something to make her shut down. And sometimes it could be a cry for no reason. It could just be like, leave me alone for no reason. And she can't even explain it. And that's her husband. But her body doesn't like that reaction because of what it endured. Well, it's the same thing for me. There are certain situations, like even in sexual situations, that my body won't react if my body's put in that position. Because if my body's put in that position, no matter how much I want the woman, I desire the woman, I want it, my body, its memories will not react because of the trauma it endured. Do I have a result to how to overcome this trauma that my body endured? Probably not. Would I like to get the results with? Probably do. Have I put that behind me mentally? Yes. Has my body put that behind mentally? No. Have I forgiven the person in my head? Yeah, most definitely. Has my body forgot though that it will not react? No, it has not.
Wow. That is really deep. And thank you for your transparency. So in other words, you guys, you're still, you know,
30 years later, yep.
30, yeah, you're in your 30s, and basically, although you are walking in purpose, you're maximizing your purpose, you're allowing God to use you, but you still going through some things, and it's okay,
That's part of
and
the
it's part of your story, and every chapter, of whoever's watching this, every chapter of your life, basically, it matters. And so I just want to thank you for being vulnerable and just sharing with that, because I feel like some people feel like, well, if I'm walking in purpose and I'm doing all of this, you know what? Every area of my life has to be perfect. I have to be free from, you name it. But that's not always true.
Then that's not walking in purpose.
You're right.
I just anything that has purpose has a challenge.
Yeah.
The Bible clearly tells us that we have to carry our cross daily. It didn't say it stops at any day. It never gives us an expiration date. It says as long as we continue to walk, there will be a challenge. And the reason why we should not hide from challenges, because we should embrace challenges, because challenges take us to the next level. If God doesn't present challenges to me, then there's no growth in my life. There's no next level to go to. And I don't like to be capped. I'm an athlete. I'm a basketball player. I'm a boxer. I like to have an opposing opponent in front of me, because as I see that opposing opponent in front of me, whatever life brings at me, I want to run through it. Like that's my initial instinct, whatever. And I think that's why I've survived so long. I'm a survivor. Like you ask me how I made it, I just know how to survive. Whatever you put in front of me, I have this mindset that I don't care what it is, I'm running through that bad boy. I may cry through the process. I may be fearful through the process, I may want to run away deep down in my gut, but something else inside of me, in the pits of me, look at every challenge and say, I refuse to be beaten by anything. So I'm going to run through the challenge and I'm going to face it head on and I'm going to win. And I always tell people when they feel like they're overwhelmed by situations and challenges, look at your life this way. I'm 36 years old. Every battle that I face, I've won because I'm not dead yet.
Yes. Amen.
I am undefeated with every battle. There's some battles we face in life, we're thinking we're going to die, right? We're thinking this is the end of us, but we're talking about it today.
Amen.
So we are all, as long as you're breathing, you are undefeated against life, no matter what challenges. I don't care if you're lying in the bed with AIDS, you're lying with cancer, you're discouraged, you're in prison, wherever you're at. As long as you got breath in your lungs, you are undefeated and you have another chance to overcome whatever it is you're facing. You have to make the decision to live by faith, sound doctrine, and keep pushing. Because if you don't keep pushing, it's going to push you all the way off the cliff.
Amen. Amen. You're speaking right now. So we have some questions from the audience. Someone wants to know, do you have a relationship with your father and mother?
This one's a tough one. I left my mother when I was 6.
Right.
I only saw my mother once when I was 19, and I'm 36 now.
Yeah.
And that was only for a weekend. So I talked to my mom over the phone as technology developed. But before, back in my days, there was, you record something on a cassette and you shipped it, right? And after that, we went from that to phone cards. You bought phone cards, prepaid cards, and you spent a bunch of money to call people, right? And then eventually, by the time WhatsApp came around, my mother was dead. So communication with my mother was never really there. 3 months before I get out of prison, by the way, I'm my mom's only son. She only has one boy. And I have 2 boys, and she's never met my sons. She's never met my sons. And supposedly, based on what all my sisters tell me, I'm my mom's favorite child, I guess, because I'm the only boy. But she never got to raise her favorite or her only boy. Wow. And 3 months before I get out of prison, the only letter I get is a letter from a person that tells me my mother just passed away from cancer. Now, mind you, I'm in prison. My mind is like, the moment I get out these walls, I'm taking the next plane. I'm going to go see my mom. I'm taking my kids. I had plans. And I'm in prison serving God like there's nobody's business. I'm preaching the word of God every night, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I'm doing Bible study and preaching the word. Then I get a letter that the thing that I was holding on to, the dearest of my heart, passed 3 months before I get out of prison from cancer. 6 days after her birthday, after celebrating her birthday. She died at 57. 7 is my favorite number. I'm the 7th child. I got 7 sisters, and today is the 7th. So it was made to be, right? It was made to be. So as far as my mom, no, I don't have a relationship with my mother, but hopefully in eternity, I can make up for that.
Amen.
I can make up for that. My father, I still have dialogue with my father here and there. He resides back in Haiti. He moved back to Haiti about 2 years ago. He had a major stroke that forced him into retirement. He's 75 years old now. And he's living in Haiti. He's living off his little Social Security check and enjoying his last days with his kids and grandkids in Haiti. Do we still dialogue? Most definitely. He raised me from the time I was 6 till I was 15. So he raised me for those 9 years. So that would be the best way that I can answer that question.
Okay. All right. And also, we have another question. Does your family know about the rape that took place? Do your sister, does your dad at the time, did you know?
My dad no. My dad can't know. My dad, at this age, it would probably give him a heart attack.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then when I was younger, the person that my dad was, he couldn't know. Mm-hmm. Because if my dad would have found out, I think my dad, he would have lost his life trying to protect his son.
Right.
You understand? Mm-hmm. And then what we were facing already in Haiti, we're trying to leave the country. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to do is add more attention to him when we're trying to flee a country.
Right.
So still to today, my dad doesn't know I was raped. My sisters at this point, they all know. I'm very vocal about it on social media. If they didn't know, they better know that they follow me. I'm very vocal about it on social media. So yeah, my sisters know, and my dad doesn't know though, and my mom didn't know.
Now, they often say that when you are raped by someone, it's often someone that is close to you or a family member. Were these individuals close family members? Okay.
Nah, this is not the traditional Haitian story. No, these were just two random girls. They lived across the street from me. They knew me. They were not like family. They were like, just people you played around in the neighborhood with. They were just a lot older than me because I was 6 and they were like 16, 17.
Okay. That's really good. I hope you guys are getting something. I hope you guys are sharing. We have 32 people live today, and I hope that all 32 of you guys go ahead and share this question. Thank you guys for your questions. Someone wants to know, will you ever explain your journey to your children?
As a matter of fact, I do that in bits and pieces every single day. My kids, I wait till they're certain ages to teach them. I'm very transparent, as you can tell. And I hate parents that are perfect. I hate
Yeah.
perfect parents. I really, really, Haitian parents are too perfect for me. I hate perfect parents. The reason why I make this stupid statement is because parents never want to show their kids where they failed at, or their
Yeah.
weaknesses, or their failures, because they're always judging and telling you what not to do, but they're never transparent and show you how they overcame anything. There's no examples. I'm that dad that don't live by those standards or those rules. I have a 13 and a 10-year-old boy, and I know there are I'm raising black men for America that doesn't want them. I know I'm raising black men that their generation is encouraging them love white women and forsake your black woman. I know I'm living in a generation that I'm raising men that if the wrong white girl says your son touched me, he's going to prison even though he didn't do anything.
Right.
So I'm extremely transparent about why I went to prison with my kids, how I got raped with my kids, how I've been shot, how I've been stabbed. I hold no bars with my kids because I want my kids to see me not just as dad, but as a friend and a human. And if I could encourage them in any way, shape, or form based on what I overcame so they don't have to go through it, I'm willing to be that sacrifice for my kids so my kids don't have to go through anything that I went through. Anything. My oldest son is in private school. He's never seen a day of public school in his life. Ever. Ever. Not because I can afford it, because I want to give him a chance that I never had.
That's good.
So.
That's good. So we're gonna get into some positive things. I mean, everything you said was positive. So
I mean, a little bit lighter.
Yeah, a little light, exactly, right? So you've been shot, you've been stabbed, you've been raped. Okay. What are your future goals right now, Mr. Dejan?
That's a good question. I have a lot of those. I'm working on a book. It's called The Path. It's a memoir about the first half of my life that transitioned from Haiti to America, what that journey really looked like and what that meant for me as a Haitian immigrant in a country that did not welcome me, as you guys can obviously based on my story. The next thing I'm working on is, as you guys know, I own a company called Blue Light Consultant, which helps businesses grow. We're working on making that even bigger beyond the state of Florida. I have a t-shirt line coming up at the end of this month. Commercials and videos will be coming out. The t-shirt line, this is actually the first time I'm announcing this live. The t-shirt line is called Restored. And there's a reason why I call it Restored. And I think your brother would appreciate the concept of why I call it Restored. Speaking about prison, while I was in prison, I was blessed enough to meet a guy that was in prison with me. And we started a business prison class, teaching entrepreneurship, teaching things like business model canvas, design thinking, the same things that you will learn at Harvard and Yale, we were teaching men in prison. And we've been out of prison for about 5 years now. We were in there 8 years ago. We've had this business class running for 8 years. So while we were in prison, we were teaching business. And now the same warden of the prison that was made to keep us is our best friend. Wow. We're the best friend of the warden of the prison. And as the warden transfers to different prisons, she's encouraging us to come to that prison and start a new business class and go to next and start a new business class. So I'm working on that. And what else am I working on? Just branding the Dejan Talks a little bit better. I think I have a pretty decent story. And I hope you guys would validate that. And I would love the opportunity. I think I'm a phenomenal host, not as good as you though, but I do my best, right? I think I do a pretty good job at hosting and speaking. If you really want somebody that's very well rounded in business, and has a phenomenal story and is a storyteller, because I'm a storyteller. That's how I captivate my crowd. That's my style of speaking. I highly recommend that you book me. I can transform your venue. I can transform your audience. I can transform whatever you're doing to bring it to a level that you probably didn't expect that it could be to, not because of anything that I'm doing, but because of everything that God has invested in me. So that's pretty much the basics. And that's about it. And thinking about relocating out of Florida. But other than that, book, shirt line, business, and speaking. Those are the 4 major things that I'm working on right now.
That's amazing. Let's go. I'm gonna read through the thread here. Are you guys enjoying this so far? Because I'm seeing a lot of comments. I'm seeing a lot of reactions to the post. You know, we're gonna get ready to wrap this interview up. If you guys have any last words, I definitely want you guys to get your questions out. At this moment, I want to give you a few moments to you know, talk to the men, because I know I have a couple probably watching this. Okay, hold on. Let me take this question. Okay, this is a good question. Someone wants to know, have you had any failed relationship because of your journey? Basically, them not able to accept what happened to you?
Multiple.
Okay.
We live in a world that's very judgmental and very lack understanding. You were stating a minute ago that everybody has chapters in life.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people read one chapter and don't read the whole book.
Yeah.
And we live in society, they pick which chapter that they're gonna focus on and ignore the rest of the book. Right? So I've had people that focuses on certain chapters of my life and then ignore the rest of the book. And a lot of people in society, as much as they may like the ideology, the concept, the stigma of a person, but the challenges that come with that person is a whole different story. And some people, as much as they speak a certain tune and they carry a certain title and stigmas, but their actions and the way that they treat people is completely different. Mm-hmm. And it's no fault to them. It's just the way society bred them. Society bred us to live in fear. Society bred us to quit on people. Society bred us to not live in understanding or forgiving. And we don't have a very forgiveful society. We focus. I always use this analogy when I teach on forgiveness. I said, imagine this was a pure white shirt, and you came and you put a little red dot here. I didn't do it, but you did it. You put a little red dot here. Everywhere I go from that day forth, everybody's gonna be like, yo, Dejan, do you know you got like a little red dot right here? I'm like, yeah, I know, somebody put that on here. Everywhere I go, you know you got a little red dot here? That red dot represents mistake or whatever happened in your life that society is gonna continue to nitpick at. Now I have a whole white shirt. That red dot probably represents 0.0001% of my life. Right. And I have the other 99.999% of my life. But society has been taught to have tunnel vision and focus on the red dot and forget the rest of the good. And we can't forgive that for whatever reason, that whatever their rationale is, but everybody's seeking forgiveness but don't have none to offer.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Okay, we're getting questions. Did you have church hurt because of those church folks who were supposed to be there for you while in prison?
Nah, not my thing. Never had that church hurt stuff. Because remember, my whole life has been nothing but a disappointment from people. So it has become the norm to have disappointments from people. I don't know if that makes sense. Like when you live the cycle of disappointment from family, friends, and different things, the church is not a group of people or how they act. You know, I'm the church. I can only have church hurt if I disappoint myself. Right. I'm the church. Now, do people make stupid mistakes while they're representing something that they're not? Yes. But I can't allow people's decision to define my relationship with God first or who I am. And I believe a lot of people allow other people's actions to dictate their relationship with the God or who they are. That means you never really had a relationship. And that means you were always looking for an excuse. Church hurt doesn't exist to me unless I allow it to be a fact. Nothing impacts you unless you allow it to have an impact.
That's good. So this is a personal question. So being that you have, you know, you used to live your life by people disappointing you, how did you overcome that now? Like, how do you establish healthy relationships or have relationships with people, knowing that this was your life, you know, basically from young to your teen years? How do you establish friendship relationships without the fear of somebody disappointing you, or you still, you know, you still have it in your thought process and you just kind of, you know, let life happen? So let's talk about that.
I have the most philosophical, educational response to this. You ready?
Right.
It's like cream of the crop stuff right here.
Okay.
I take it one day at a time.
That's good.
It's just that simple. I can't overthink the process
Right.
because our feelings are misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Fear grips. Once we understand how the body works, feelings will mislead you. Fear will grip you. Your past will haunt you. Nobody's afraid of new love. We're just afraid of old hurt.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? So the best way to deal with that is just take it one day at a time. The Bible says yesterday's gone. Tomorrow has enough worries of itself. Let's focus on today.
Right.
So I leave the yesterday where it belongs. Tomorrow is not here yet, so I ain't gonna stress about it. So today I'm gonna treat you based on how you treat me. And I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna trust you based on what you show me. And that's really the way that I deal with everybody, honestly. The way that you treat me, I'm gonna reciprocate that. I'm like a mirror. What you show me is what I'm gonna show you. Until you show me I'm not worth being in your presence, then I remove myself from that mirror, and then there's no more mirror. You understand? So I just, one day at a time, you build that trust with that person. And that's how I deal with people.
That's good. Okay. So I think I have a DM here. How do you feel about, you know, therapy? You know, you said that you're still dealing with, you know, the rape. Are you open to receiving or going to therapy for that?
I believe I always preach therapy to everybody. That's why I'm a life coach. I believe that, but we can't put all our hopes in therapy. We got to put a lot of our baskets in God first, though, right? Mm-hmm. I believe every Black person in America should go to therapy. Every Black person, because what trauma, every Black person has faced millions of traumas, especially Black women. I believe everybody should go to therapy before you get married. Before you get ready to give somebody your best, you got to be able to have the best to give, right? And that means there's a lot of baggage that needs to be unraveled. So I believe everybody should go to therapy. And yes, I'm a component and I'm an advocate for therapy. And that's definitely one of those processes that I have to go through for the rest of my life. It's not a one-time hit wonder thing, boom. Because as life evolves, you have different experience and different things that you have to overcome. Everybody's therapy is obviously going to be different. Maybe it might be a spiritual, maybe it might be a natural, maybe it might, whatever your belief system is. But whatever it is, I believe everybody should get therapy for certain things that they've invested in life. So yeah, I believe that's something that everybody should do, including myself. Nobody's excluded from this. And that's something that I preach that people should do. Besides just pray, go get some therapy.
Thank you so much for that. Someone wants to know, are you a single father?
I take care of my kids. I wouldn't say I'm a single father. My kids have amazing mothers that do a phenomenal job of raising them, and we have a phenomenal co-parenting. My kids live with me a certain portion of the year, and they live with their mothers a certain portion of the year. I don't know if that defines me as a single father. I just call myself a responsible father. I love my kids. I would do anything to take care of my kids, and I just step up to the plate, and I love the responsibility of being a dad. It's the greatest joy for me. So I guess that's how I would answer that, because for me to say I'm a single father would be to take away from their mother's actions. Right. Their mothers, what their mothers have invested in them. Their mothers can do that to me if that's their choice. Right. But me being who I am, I'm never gonna remove that mantle from them, because my kids are a component of both mother and father, not just me.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Now, this is also, I guess I'm gonna, because of your life experiences, will you allow yourself, or have you allowed, I mean, you have clearly because you have kids, but being that you're still dealing with certain things when it comes to, you know, childhood trauma, are you willing to let yourself get close
Oh, most
to,
definitely.
okay, to a woman to love, to allow them to love you?
There's no, I love the concept of love. I'm like
Okay.
a hopeless romantic. That's why I like poetry. I cook. I like poetry. That's why I'm a hopeless romantic. So I love the concept of love, as long as it's done right.
That's good.
That's what is. Nobody does not want to be loved who does not want to receive that, as long as it's done right.
That's good. Okay. Okay, I think we answered that question. How do you establish healthy relationships? And okay, he answered that question. I'm just going up. We have a lot of questions. All right, you guys. So give you guys a few minutes to wrap up, you know, some questions. Mr. Dijon, thank you so much for sharing your story. At this time, I want you to kind of look at the camera, and I want you to take a few minutes and, you know, share with the men or women struggling to make the right choices, or struggling to let go of their past to enter the new. What are some inspirational words that you can leave with them tonight before you leave?
Uh, I know motivational speakers like to fill buckets. I'm not one of those. As much as I'm motivational, I actually pull out what's already inside of you. Um, there's two songs that has gotten me through a lot throughout the course of my life. The first one was by Fred Hammond, No Weapon. Mm-hmm. Right? I absolutely love that song. Every time I hear it, I cry. Right? I don't care. I'm this old. I still hear it, I cry. No weapon. Why? Because I've seen a lot of weapons form against me, and none of them has prospered. So I'm a testimony to that one. The second one is, and that also applies to anybody that believes that. That doesn't apply to me. That applies to the man or the woman that's struggling with something. When God says no weapon formed against you shall prosper, it shall not prosper. But now what it requires, though, is not God's capability of making that happen. It's your faith in God's ability to make that happen. Not just God's ability. Sometimes we put all the burden on God as if we don't have a say in this. It's our faith in the ability of the one that has no limit to be able to do so. Second one was Mary, Mary, when they came out with No One Told Me This Road Was Going to Be Easy.
That's good. I know that song.
Listen, I don't know where we get this ideology that everything's supposed to be roses and peaches and cream and flowers and fairy tales and unicorns and whatever this concept is. Church showed me that too. Church showed me that once you have Jesus Christ in your life, your life's supposed to be perfect, blah, blah, blah. I give my life supposedly to Jesus at 15, and bam, literally 3 months later, I'm homeless. Imagine how I felt. Me and God went to beef. I cursed God up and down, left and right. I give God the business for like a year. Like, yo, I just gave you my life and now I'm homeless? You serious, homie? And I'm getting out of track? This is God life? This is God life? But I didn't understand the sacrifice of Christ.
Yeah.
I didn't understand anything. I was judging God based on what people told me, what religion told me, and I never had a relationship, like I said. I never really got in depth with him to understand him. So why did I mention those two songs, No Weapon and Nobody Told Me This Road Was It? Because that's our life. You're always going to have weapons that forms against you, and your life will not be easy. But what I will tell you is you are equipped with everything needed when it comes to overcome it as it comes. Nothing is put before you that you were not prepared for and that you can't overcome, unless you just decide to always put yourself in situations that you shouldn't be in. Because sometimes we have to take accountability for some of the positions we put ourselves in that God never put us in. We like to scream, oh, the devil, the devil, devil. No, sometimes the devil is the one in the mirror.
Yeah.
We put ourselves in a lot of predicaments that we don't hold ourselves accountable to, yet we blame God for the outcome. Sometimes God will leave you from Malachi to Matthew. There's 400 years of nothing. Silence. You just flip a page and you're thinking it just continued. No, that little crack in between those pages is 400 years. God didn't speak to nobody. He didn't say nothing to nobody. He left us in darkness. Sometimes we make decisions. God said, you know what? Go ahead, prodigal daughter. Go ahead, prodigal son. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to make sure you stay alive. I'm going to make sure your heart keep breathing. I'll wait till you come back to the altar.
Really nice.
So I don't care what anybody's going through. Your pain is validated. You should feel the way you should feel. You should have the anger you should feel. You should be in the mindset that you're in. But you also have a decision to either stay there or leave it there. All of that falls on you. The question is, what decision will you make?
Okay. We have one question. Someone said you gave God the business. Do you think it's okay to be mad at God?
God never said emotions was a bad thing. Jesus picked up chairs and he flipped them all over. Emotions is not bad. Now, what happens is with your emotions is if you allow your emotions to drive you into becoming what we call sin, right?
Yes.
Jesus showed tons of emotions. He cried, he yelled, he was angry, he screamed raka. If y'all don't speak Hebrew, go figure that out, right? Jesus did, my dude was a little thug, flipping things, right? It's not the fact that if it's right to be mad at God, but sometimes you're in an emotional state you don't understand.
Yeah.
It's a lack of understanding. And sometimes when you don't understand, your emotions get the best of you. And the only reason we don't understand is because we don't know God. Yeah. Because if we knew God, and not just on the emotional standpoint, or when we just begging God for something in prayer, we would also know the word says this, that everything works out for your good. What does that mean? Good, bad, indifference. Wonder what you're facing. If you know even that bad will turn out for a good, then you won't look at it as bad. If I know God tell me that every bad thing is going to work out for my good, am I going to look at every bad situation that is going to kill me? I'm like, oh, okay, I got this. Something good's coming. Perspective. The Bible says, let this mind of mine also be in you. Changing our mind. Renew your mind daily. These are things that the Bible tells us every day. How do I renew my mind? Well, first of all, I need to read the word. If I don't read the word, I need to hear the word. If you don't do those things daily, you can't renew your mind. So if you don't do those things, then you're going to be living in the carnal mind. And what does the Bible say? The carnal mind cannot understand the things of the spirit. So of course, the carnal mind is going to yell at God, scream at God, because it doesn't understand the spiritual things that's taking place in its life.
That's good.
It doesn't understand. So we got to stop being so holy and perfect and understand that one of my favorite shirts from my church is no perfect people allowed. It doesn't exist. If there was a perfect person, then we don't need a Jesus.
Yeah, that's good.
We don't need a Jesus. We can't be perfect. And I'm not saying that to make an excuse to sin. I'm saying that to allow yourself to be human. Because even Jesus stood in the mind like, yo, God, listen here, chap. I love you and all. Remove this cup from me. He did that 3 times. That was his human state. He already knew what the game plan was. He had to come down here, go get beat up, crucified, and die for us. But yet he still, when it was about that time, he looked at that cup and like, all right, God, it's coming. Can you remove it? And after the 3rd time, he finally said, all right, God, not your will, but not my will, but yours.
That's good.
We got to get to that point.
And, just to kind of add on to that, the Bible says that, be angry, but sin not, and
correct. So is the anger not an emotion?
Yeah. So, it's okay to be angry, but just what are you doing when you're angry?
Correct.
Are you allowing those emotions, like you said, to overtake you? And, David is another person who was angry at God. Like, he was messed up. Like, he did so much, So I think people need to understand that God is not afraid of our anger. He's not afraid of our questions. In fact, you know what? He's waiting for us to be vulnerable and very much so transparent with our emotions. I think people are afraid to come to God angry. I think people are afraid to curse, when they're upset, but God likes that. He wants it to be real, according to what my Bible says. So
listen, I was 15 years old and homeless. Do you expected me not to yell at God and have an understanding at 15?
Yes.
I don't think so. The reason why people can't have a relationship with God because they treating God like this outside entity that they don't know. If God is supposed to be my father, how many times do we yell at our natural fathers and get mad at our natural fathers?
Yes.
We do it all the time. God just decides to have a relationship with him. Whether we're yelling at him, just talk to him. Because if you actually talk to him, then he can actually console you. But if you're holding it in and you're trying to, it's going to eat you.
That's good. And he can't help out someone who you pretend to be. So you got to come to him and be real anyways.
Transparent.
So you guys, I pray that you guys enjoyed tonight's conversation. Again, tonight was about entrepreneurs, inmates turning into entrepreneurs. And you guys heard it. He was in jail. He got shot. He was raped. And yet God has truly, from the sale to salvation, you guys, he's now a business consultant. He's a keynote motivational speaker. He's a coach. He's a prison reform advocate. And God has birthed every last thing that he does while he was in prison, you know? So if
Right.
this story does not motivate you to, you know, use your pain to purpose, then I don't know, you know, I don't know. So Mr. Dejan, thank you. I have located his IG underneath the chat. Please, you guys, please follow him so that when he come out with his new projects, we can support. I know I'm going to support. Dejan, thank you so much for being transparent with your story. You didn't have to, but you did. And for those of you guys that are going to be watching the replay, please go ahead and share this video with someone, tag someone, follow him on Facebook, follow him on IG. Mr. Dejan, do you have any last words for the people before we close out?
First of all, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be on your platform. Continue to do the work that you're doing. I believe as this message reach a lot of people that actually have people incarcerated like you, they need encouraging too. The people that are on the outside dealing with people on the inside, they need encouraging too.
Yes.
Because sometimes you don't know if your family member is going to make it back out safely.
I don't know.
You know, so we're talking about the inmates. So in the Bible tells us that God loves somebody that actually goes in prison and visits and loves the prisoners. Jesus was in prison. So all the people that want to judge people that's in prison, guess what? Jesus was falsely accused and put in prison too. So while we want to judge people that are in prison, well, Jesus was in there. He understands their pain. And we have to get to a point where we have to have the heart to forgive the same way God does. Yes. I think that's the biggest thing. And a lot of people, why they're not learning their lessons, because the biggest person that we can't forgive is ourselves. Yeah. We've failed ourselves so much. We hold everybody else accountable to our hurt because we don't know how to forgive ourselves. Yeah. So if I have to leave anybody with a final note is, find it within yourself to forgive you for all of the mistakes that you made, all of those poor decisions that you made, the people you allowed into your life that you shouldn't have. And those people that you couldn't forgive, now you need to forgive yourself for that too. You need to forgive yourself for that too, because when we hold on to this, it is a remedy for destruction. Yeah. And we have to stop living in things that are going to be hindrance and destruction, and we have to start living in victory. But victory comes from those who he set free is free indeed. But you have to be free from the burden of unforgiveness.
That's good. Mr. Dejan, thank you so much. Thank you again. You guys, is it okay? Well, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to DM him, but is it okay if they have any more questions? Will you be able to answer some of them? I think he's single. I don't know. I can't help y'all out, but if you're going to,
Nope.
Okay. So are you okay with asking questions and going back to answer some of them in the video?
Yeah, if they have any questions as far as like business questions and life coaching questions and stuff like that, I can answer any of those questions.
Okay, awesome, you guys. So he can. I asked the question. Okay, good. All right. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
No, thank you again for allowing me on your show.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.